Welcome to the Staying on Track podcast. I'm your host, Jason Beischel. I'm a founder of DayMark Wealth Partners, and I'm a certified financial planner. In our last episode, I took a Rubik's Cube and I solved it while comparing it to your financial plan, where you have a base level that needs to be solved first before you move into that second level, more complex. You must have those two levels solved before you move into that top level that can be super complex. It might not be that liquid. So we're going to talk a lot about those top levels in a later episode, but today we're going to break out the base level and a little bit more detail. So first, let's solve the base level of the cube. Base level of the cube, like I said, is fairly simple, much like the base level of your financial plan. You've got your 3 to 6 months of emergency cash, you've maxed out your retirement plan, and you're establishing a gifting strategy. So base level of the cube is solved. We've got our green, orange, blue, red, and the whites already solved. So that 3 to 6 months of emergency cash, that's not just I graduated college, so I need 3 to 6 months of expenses and something that's relatively safe and fairly liquid. It can get a little bit more complex as you move up the income stack. So, I was recently meeting with a C-suite exec, and she shared with me that she has 3 kids in college this year at $40,000 each. She's doing this major renovation on her home, complete with a lazy river and a waterfall. Sounds awesome, but it's going to cost about $280,000 to complete. She's involved in a couple private equity deals. That's the top level of the cube, and we'll talk about that in a later episode. But she has $200,000 each in these 2 deals that are coming due this year, and she also has her regular normal expenses, her 6 months of expenses of about $100,000. So let's break that math problem out for her. $40,000 times 3 kids equals $120,000. She's got a $280,000 renovation. She's got $200,000 each for 2 capital calls, so that's $400,000 for that. And then she has her regular expenses of $100,000. So she doesn't need just $100,000 in something that's relatively safe and fairly liquid. She needs like $900,000 that's something that's relatively safe and fairly liquid. So that's something that you certainly can run into, and if you are in that situation, you want us to help, we can. Now let's move on to the retirement plan. So retirement plan is a math problem. What's the IRS limit for the year? Divide that by 12, and that's the amount of money you should be putting in your retirement plan each and every month. But there's a little bit more to that as well. So you should be reviewing your funds and your investments regularly to make sure their performance is keeping up with their peer group. You should be checking your expense ratios, making sure that those are reasonable. And you should also be rebalancing regularly. All things that we can help. Now let's move on to the gifting strategy. Gifting strategy can be very sensitive for some people. I think that it needs to be reviewed regularly, at least annually, to make sure that your charities are actually given the appropriate percentage out to the causes that you're intended to. Make sure they're still aligned with your value system, and make sure that you can afford to continue to give to these charities. I recently met with a couple that over the last 3 to 5 years, they've ran into some significant medical problems, and it's caused the bills to skyrocket. And it probably doesn't look like it's going to get any better, and it could even result in a long-term care facility. So with this couple, we had to take a step back and say, look, this is what you're giving. They're what I call the tithe plussers. They give 10% faithfully to their church, and then throughout the year, they'll give to random, somebody might come to them and say, I'm a little over my skis with my credit card bills. Can we have $2,000? I need a new car. Can we have $10,000? There's various golf outings. Can you sponsor a hole? So all of those are great, and they really enjoy doing that. But at this point, they need to take a step back and look at their spending guardrails and say, are they violating them? Are their needs going to be able to be met before they move on to these ancillary things throughout the year? So that's what we talk about. Be very intentional with your giving and make sure that you're reviewing it. So just to recap, that base level of your financial plan is 3 to 6 months of emergency cash, maxing out your retirement plan, and establishing a gifting strategy. So if you have any questions, let us know. I'm Jason Beischel, and this is Staying on Track.